I always am reminded, again, with all these conversations I'm having with parents, how far away this NHL thing is and what a different game and a different level. And when you scale things back down to youth levels, how how insignificant what is going on actually is, though it seems so significant when you're in it, when you're talking to people about it, because which makes sense because it's their whole world, right? But for the last, I was just kind of bitching about it too earlier today. Like for the last like several weeks, talking with so many parents and going through the youth hockey process, all the while having the frame of reference of hockey beyond, like higher level hockey, what it turns into and how it is. It's just really, I think it's really important that we continue to remind the parents to just chill out, like to just relax with what's going on at their 12-year-old level, 13-year-old level, because in the nicest way that I can be about it, it just changes so much. It just there's so many things that are different. There's so many things that don't matter. There's so many things that seem important that aren't. We're looking at it right now, even with the kids that just went through the draft in our area. It's like all these guys. I read the newspaper article that we had locally with all the kids that are ranked.
Media. That's what I was saying.
You know what I mean?
There has to be media.
And
people have to write an article about something and talk about something.
Yeah, and this is what gets people worked up. And then at the younger ages, it's the same thing. And then there's an inability. Like, man, I'm trying to be just like nice about it. But
just to go back, so you'll let you think.
Go.
Charlie was just saying before we started this podcast, he goes, the media.
Yeah.
He goes, big news. Austin Matthews didn't take the morning skate today. Like, what's wrong? It's like, maybe he just didn't want to skate today because he's allowed to say no.
Right. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But the other part, like, you have to be able to be honest about where your kid's at, and you have to be able to be honest about how much you know about what your kid should be doing, So on the day-to-day when things are happening, it's just I'm finding that parents are just so naive about where their kids are. They're just so naive. And it's not, I'm not saying it to be negative. I'm not saying for like that it's a bad thing necessarily, but there's just such a lack of awareness of where the kids are at and what the path looks like moving forward, and you see it immediately. It's like the day after for us, the U16 draft. It's like the day after. It's like all of a sudden everyone's thrown into no man's land and everything they thought they knew is just not reality anymore. And it's like, now we have to reset our foundations of what we believe. And it's like very confusing. It's very discouraging. We've seen, and you've probably seen more than me, people just like absolutely lose it and never get it back because this was like such an impactful event. And I'm trying to not be like overly specific, but I'm just seeing it with in the conversations that I'm having, that there's certain things that just, you need to be able to take things with a bigger picture in mind of where things are going and what people are doing. Does that make sense? I know I'm being kind of vague.
I think for once, I might clean it up for you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Maybe.
Okay.
I'm going to throw it by using examples.
Yeah.
Okay. So the coach sucks. I don't like the coach. Coach is this, that, the other thing. And that's young people hockey. And that's okay to say if your coach is, he stole 3 cars last week. Right?
Yeah.
And he hasn't taken a shower in 6 months, and
he's a bad person.
And he's just a bad human being.
Yeah.
But to expect a coach in youth hockey, and I'm not talking the Toronto area, Detroit areas, because they it's the premier leagues and they pay coaches and the coaches are supposed to be good. That doesn't make them good, but they're probably better. They probably played at a higher level and they know the game and stuff like that. So, but even that, I'll go back to that. So to expect to have a really, really, really good hockey coach I think is an unreal expectation. I think what you should expect is a coach that, is going to put some time into having a good practice, keep a reasonable accountability with the kids, a good accountability and having this is the dream, right? Having good practices, play the kids to win and play development and all that kind of stuff. But the reality is that, right, so that's little boy hockey or young kid hockey. But once you get to like OHL, junior at almost any level, college and pro, you might have So just to back up, so parents get like all freaked out about that. He's not a good coach, this, that, the other thing. It's like, first of all, like, how do you identify what a good coach is, right? Because a lot of times, who I was talking to one of our goalie coaches, he said, he runs these things and he's excellent. He's an excellent goalie coach, and he's detailed, and his mind works differently than a lot of people, which I like. So he said he was doing one where the kids were doing really slow movements and just getting it, catching the puck, following it in, and they're young. One of the dads says if he's not sweating any more than that, he's not coming out. This is crap. I was like, and I'm going, so you're wrong. This is actually really good. It's a really good progression. So what they feel is could be a good coach or a bad coach. Like, that's the naivety of
Right, exactly.
is you
Yeah.
don't really understand what a good
Great
coach is. I'm not
example.
saying everybody. I'm
Yeah,
saying
yeah.
like a lot of
It's a
people.
great
So
example.
to sit there and say coach is no good, well, and I've said this 1,000 times. Well, what you don't know what you're going to get. So trying to control who your coaches are and freaking out about it, it might feel good in the short term, but when you get to a junior level, you lose that control. I mean, you could still say, "Well, I'm not going to play in this league, or I'm not going to play for that team." Like, you could hold out, but you might not play. So you lose control of what of something like that, like your coaching. Put them in a good environment, because now it's about playing hockey, and it might be what you don't think is a good coach anymore. So you're freaking out about something early, but like my point to I think is what you were trying to say is like you got to kind of let things happen. Unless it's bad people, then it's a change, because it's something that you're going to have to deal with. If you're trying to manipulate kids on the team, that's another thing, right? Like, not playing with this guy. If this guy's on the team, I'm not playing. It's like, okay, but when you get to a higher level, that's something that is out of your control. You have to learn to deal with little things like that. So the thing that I feel is important is that you you are where you are. We live in the Windsor, Ontario area. This is what we get for our youth hockey. If you live in Toronto, it's going to be different. Ottawa's different. Detroit's different, and Los Angeles is all different. So, but within where you live, you have to make the best of what it is. And some people are fortunate, or maybe it's unfortunate, to be honest, that they grow up in an organization where they fit perfectly in with that team, and they have like the perfect coach for them, and the everything is just nice and good. But that's going to change at some point. You get shit sandwiches at some point, so you have to learn how to deal with it. So, like in youth hockey, you try to make the best of what you have, and every decision that you make when you're 8, 9, 10 to 16 is not going to make a heck of a lot of a difference if you're good enough to get to another level. So the thing that I would say would be like enjoy it, like enjoy it, and you might be on uh, maybe not a winning team, but you do your best to make it a winning team and a winning culture. And as you get to a higher level, like you still, if you're good enough, people are going to find your skill set that you do well, and you're going to learn the game of hockey at a junior level. You're going to start learning hockey because it's not doesn't resemble anything like minor hockey. It's just
Yeah.
not the same game.
Yeah, and you
Is
put
that
it
kind of
that
what
was
you were
yeah,
saying?
you put it
Yeah.
perfect. Those are good examples too, because it was almost like kind of the thread I'm pulling out is like it's not I don't want to say it's an expectation, but there's just such a higher standard. It's almost like there's an expectation of perfection with the situation that you're going into, and I can appreciate that from from a parenting side, even not having a kid. It's like you want to put your kid in the perfect situation. Like I totally appreciate that, but shit's just not perfect, man. It's and it'll never be. So it's just are you in the best are you in the are putting your kid in the best situation or the best environment or giving them the best option or the most amount of option possible? And I think that's more the question when you're making decisions about where to go, who to play with, who the coach is, yada yada. There's always going to be something that's not exactly the way you want it to be because there's many people involved. And that's not just a hockey, it's just a life thing. It's going to happen at work, it's going to happen at school, it's going to happen wherever you're doing whatever. There's just going to be not it's going to be not perfect. That's just the nature of living. It's just things are imperfect, man. And I find people when I'm having these conversations just from my experience now, having a lot of these conversations of late especially, it's like everyone says what I'm saying. Everybody says like, yeah, like we're here for this reason and we know it's not going to be this and whatever, but then when it comes down to it, it's like then there's some pushback about well, I don't like that my kid is being treated this way, or I don't like that whatever, fill in the blank, you know? And this kind of brings me to my second point about kind of how I was mentioning kids are or parents are a little bit naive about their own kids. And I know you've had this experience too. It's like if they're given situation X, like who's the shithead here? Is it your kid? Is it all the adults in the room? Is it everybody except for you? And this is another thing that I've been running into the last few weeks in particular. It's like parents unable to see their kid for what they are. And maybe it's they're choosing not to. Maybe they don't know. Maybe they haven't seen it. I don't know. Like I know you've had experience with this as well. But I feel like we were talking about this the other day. I was like, why are you making me be the asshole? You know what I mean? Why are you making me have to explain to you that your kid's been a problem or that your kid has done this thing? And you're trying to tell me, no, he didn't. Yes, he did. You know what I mean? It's like, yes, he did. He did though. So why is it this difficult? Like, why are you making me have to be the one to do this? And they all talk the talk. They talk the accountability, you
Yeah,
know?
you remember this? I had to address the same person a couple times. Kids were young, and kid was in line, and he was just jabbing guys, and he was farting around. So I kind of gave it to him a little bit. Said stop, whatever. And dad said, oh yeah, my son said that you were upset with him about something. I said, yeah, he's farting around, man. I didn't use fart though. You're farting around, and he goes, oh, it doesn't sound like him. I know it doesn't sound like him, but it was him. It was there. I was in front of me, and it was driving everybody nuts and me. Same person. It was a couple years later. Another incident. It was about 3, 4 things. Another incident. Another incident. It's never the kid's fault. Like, but it is.
Right.
But it is. And it's like your kid is the kid is not a bad kid at all. At all. Like I'm saying that like not to make it sound nice. He's not a bad kid at all. But he in my experience with this, like this one particular person was like he's a great kid, but there's something there that he needed to get attention somewhere else, or now I could be the big guy in the dressing room, and I could be like a veteran sort of thing, and do things to bully kids. That's actually kind of what you would call it in today's world. And it's like he wasn't a bad kid at all, but he just didn't have the confidence to not be like a dick. So he was like farting around was a better alternative, get some attention, and so. But yeah, your kids do things, and
When I had this one, this was last week. Like, there's little kids. They're playing 3-on-3. It's little kids, man. They bump into each other. They turn around too fast and their stick flies. Like these are things that I've seen, we're used to working with. It's not that crazy. And I got parents coming down losing their shit.
oh yeah,
Losing their
that
shit.
kid
Like
hit my kid. Yeah.
So I had like 3-4 different times parents come down and interrupt me while I'm trying to do some kind of teaching thing on the ice. Like pull me aside. I'm in the middle of doing drills. And like that's what you do when there's an emergency. You know what I mean? And so I have to go to the side for them to say some irrelevant thing where I'm just like, they're kids, dude. I'm watching. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and like so just to take that to a different level, like so this morning.